Hi everyone, Pratikesh.
Hello, good evening. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone. So, today we have this session on how to ace CLAT 2022. So, before that, let me introduce myself. I am Pratikesh Shankar. I am currently heading this Project Maverick team. And in today's session, we have uh, two highly respected CLAT mentors, and they are Mr. Deepu Krishna sir and Mr. Vardhan sir. So, uh, both of them have mentored many students from different NLUs and different highly prestigious law colleges, and their students have graduated from NLUs and colleges, and some are still in these NLUs. So, uh, I'll first introduce Deepu sir. Um, uh, Mr. Deepu Krishna sir is NLIU Bhopal graduate. Uh, he had worked with a career launcher as national head and associate vice president, and he was earlier associated with Karnavati University and OP Jindal Global University. Uh, he did his LLM from Jagran Lake City, and currently he is pursuing his PhD from Amity University. Also, he is currently the associate professor and uh, associate dean at IFIM Law School. Then we have Harshvardhan Tiwari sir. Uh, he was our ex Project Maverick head, and currently he is assistant dean and assistant professor at IFIM Law School. He graduated from RG Annual in 2018. So let's begin this session, and let's see how you can ace your preparation for CLAT 2022 and 2023. So, uh, as we know, in this 2022 year, we have two CLAT exams for CLAT for 2022 and 2023. So first exam will be in May 2022, and for CLAT 2023, our exam will be in December. So my first question to our guest will be, uh, how the preparation should be different for CLAT 2022 and CLAT 2023.
Harsh, would you like to take that question, or do you want me to go ahead? Okay, I think I should take that question. Uh, it's very simple. First of all, thank you so much for the sweet introduction. And the moment you say Project Maverick, I really become nostalgic for the simple reason that one of my favorite movies is Top Gun. And I remember Tom Cruise. He made this name Maverick as legendary during my generation. So when I say my generation, I want to take all the attendees of the session back to my generation, where law entrance examination was very different and a very difficult ball game, if you ask me. When I say why was it a difficult ball game, it was because we did not have CLAT. CLAT came in 2010. I graduated in 2006. So you can understand that how it happened, right? So I remember, I'm not exactly sure when CLAT came. It was 2010 or 8. I still have a confusion, but yeah, that's how. So I entered law school in the year 1999. But then the examination pattern during those times were very difficult. The competition was not that high like the way it is today. Thank gods for it. But again, the seats were also very less, and the entrance examination was very difficult. So if you ask me how, I can even go ahead and even explain how. Because during our time, there was this great law school called as NLS Bangalore, which started what you call as a National Law School Revolution, and which revolutionized what you call as a 5-year program. Had a entrance pattern which was very difficult. And today, where we stand after the catastrophes each year in CLAT, I think they were very right. And today, when I'm teaching students, when I've become an associate professor, I'm even taking classes of LLM students. Now I understand that why that pattern was much better and why National Law School legacy could be built, because those students who cracked those entrance examinations and reached national law schools were different. Now, not going ahead and trying to demean anyone who has cracked CLAT, but if you ask me about the pattern there, it was 50% subjective, it was 50% objective. That's how NLS Bangalore's pattern looked like. Okay. And out of your 50% objective, you had to score more than 50%. Only then your subjective would be checked. So you would say this guy is trying to take a sadistic pleasure in saying that the entrance examination was very difficult. So, no. Let me explain. Life in law school and post it has a great correlation with all the entrance examinations which we give it. CLAT somehow was not able to do justice in the initial few years. I was coaching students and I even used to wonder what kind of a pattern it is, because it was more trying to check how much good you are in rote learning. And believe me, there are students, as in there is a research conducted by a portal called as Legally India, where it is very clearly mentioned that some students who cracked CLAT and went to national law schools started struggling. And then they carried out a research where they find out from National Law School Bangalore, where there are 80 seats, there were years when on the day of convocation and on the day of graduation, the students who graduated were only 65. What about the rest of them? They had backs, some of them dropped out, because they then understood once they went into law school that how is law taught? How is law learned? So most of you here also, it's a wake-up call for each one of you. Do you understand how law is being taught? The moment I ask this question often to students, some of the most famous answers which I get is they teach us case laws, they ask us your Rotland sections. I'm so sorry. That's exactly how I think some very, with some law schools which just want to mint money and which take hordes of students inside teach. Law teaching is very different. In Harvard, there was this great legendary academician who started this entire process. His name is Professor Christopher Columbus Langdale, who brought out this pattern called as case study method. And from there, teaching of law changed. It changed very much, where even as judgment declared by Supreme Court of India will be brought in front of you, and the professor is going to tell you that let's dissect this particular judgment, rip it apart, let's criticize it. The judge might have committed a big blunder, and he will give his opinion, and he would require you to critically look into the judgment. It can be any judgment. It can be the famed Section 377 judgment. It can be the famed the right to homosexuals to have sex, that judgment. It can be any judgment, but that's exactly how law is taught. And that's where your preparation right from this moment has to be in sync with what you're going to go through for the next 5 years. Be you appearing for the CLAT, which is happening just now, or else the one which will happen later in the year, but your focus has to be very clear that what is the requirement that a law school has. And right from the time when I have been coaching students, I've been telling the students very clearly, read, interpret, read a book, read books by people like Ramchandra Guha, etc. Criticize them. Critically try to understand what this author has said. If you want to take cues from me, I would say there's a very, very famous book. It's available even on Amazon. The name of the book is Letter to a Law Student. It's by Mr. Nicholas McBurdy. I repeat the book name. The name of the book is Letters to a Law Student. It was voted as one of the top 6 books a law student should read before doing law. Okay, so you are at that stage right now. Go and read that book, please. It talks about studying law at Harvard, Stanford, or Columbia, but yes, it applies to us also because the basic principle remains the same. Because in there, you will understand, believe me, you will understand that how law is taught. What are the skills required for a law student to survive in law school? I again repeat, survive in law school. I and Harsh will agree to this word called as survive in law school, because law school, the way it looks, you may look at Harvey Specter and say, yeah, wow, this is exactly how I want to be. Suits should do an episode about how Harvey Specter survived law school, and then you understand what it takes to be a Harvey Specter or any lawyer whom you have in your mind. Because those 5 year breaks you, tears you apart, but then that's what makes you. You have to go through fire. Just like they say, a diamond was just another piece of coal which did well under pressure, right? That's exactly how you have to go through. And we survived it. Believe me, I was a commerce student. I had no legal background in my family. But then when I was preparing, much before I prepared, I went through these things. I started realizing that these are some things which are important, for which when I was in 11th standard, I picked up the book called as Ren and Martin, and I beefed up my English. I made sure that my rules of grammar are good. Why? Because I wanted to make sure that my interpretations are good. Because whatever I'm telling all of you here was told to me by a Supreme Court lawyer who also happens to be my cousin. He told me that, dude, you think law is child's play? I want to tell you it's very different. And then he gave me a page where a judgment was written down, just one page of that entire 600-page judgment or something. And he said, just read it and make sense of it. And I was not even able to understand anything. I was able to understand some facts, but what was written there, I could not understand. Then he told me that this is a very famous judgment where a British court decided upon how a parliament should exercise its power. And I was like, but ye thodi puchenge mujhse. That was exactly what I said. This is not going to be asked in entrance examination, to which his answer was very clear. It's not the examination which matters, my dear. It's how you're going to survive in the law school. He was very, very, very clear that you may crack the entrance examination because you're studying hard, you're very through with your current affairs, but then interpretation, logical thinking, critical reasoning is something which is very important. When I was in law school, I remember there was a poem which was being taught to us in the English class. Okay, in the English class, we were being taught a poem by a very famous singer. His name is Bob Dylan. I guess all of you know him. He's one of those rare singers who got a Nobel for writing this poem. And the poem's name was Only a Pawn in the Game. Okay, go and read this, because Bob Dylan wrote it criticizing the great, appreciating the great civil rights movement which was happening in the country which talks so much about civil liberties, the United States of America. They talk a lot about it. They talk a lot about civil liberties, but if you go and check their history, India was much better. In many senses, India was much better. And this was being taught to us in law school in an English class to make us understand that how Bob Dylan's poem related to the very facts, what is called as rights. What are rights? And believe me, when this question was asked to us in that class, when we were in the second year, not one student gave a right answer about what are rights. Everyone kept speaking about something which we are born with, blah, 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 so many other things. But in that very class, through this poem, the ma'am was able to understand us. Rights mean something which is guaranteed under or written down in a constitution or a document which says you have this. If you don't have it, you may have to fight for it. The fight is something which a lawyer has to do, for which he cannot go and protest. He has to go to the court, and using the power of his critical thinking and interpretations, he has to fight the case. Even if he becomes a corporate lawyer, he has to confine himself to the written word of law. So my idea is very clear, guys. Start taking English as a subject very, 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 very seriously. And there is this examination called as LSAT also, which you should appear and which you should give, because that is one of those closest examinations which comes to what you call as in a law school life. because it tests you only on those two basic things. There is no negative marking also, but they test you only on those two basic things. One is your English, and the other is your reasoning. And these are the two things which matter, believe me. And that's why CLAT now looks more like LSAT and now is more about reading, comprehending, and critically examining the questions. If you can develop these skills, believe me, you're on the right track. An examination called as CLAT is nothing. There's a lot of hula-boo which has been created where they say CLAT exam, critical, they analyze papers, mocks, etc. But it's all about you. You have to understand that. It's all about how you think. It's all about your skills of interpretation. It's all about how you could read a particular document and can make sense of it and say, okay, this is what it means. And that's what is a skill of a lawyer. Okay, that's my 2 cents about it. I took a lot of time. I would now request Harsh to further go ahead and answer this question.
Yeah. So Pratikesh, I missed your question. If you can repeat it again.
Sir, so my question was, in 2022, we have 2 CLAT exams in May and in December. So I wanted to ask you, for our students, what should be the preparation strategy for, like, should it be the same for both, or should there be any difference between the two?
Of course. So this question, I have to segregate into 2 parts. One, we must understand that the application opened on 1st of January. And I hope few of you have filled the form. If not, you should go back and fill the form first, examination form first. The application deadline, we all are aware of, is 31st of March. And the examination, which Pratikesh just told, one is in May, other is in December. We know the dates of May exam, it's 8th of May. So now that being said, first and foremost, what I will tell you that there will be 2 categories of students, depending upon their level of preparationness, Pratikesh and my dear students. If you are all for this May exam, then these next few months are very, very critical to your preparation. Particularly how you approach this paper in the 2 hours which is given to a law school aspirant with 150 questions in it. You have to go for it. You have to attempt those questions in such a way that you crack this exam. That is where this entire structure of Project Maverick came into, wherein we wanted to create unprecedented access to legal education. And to do so, this Project Maverick came into existence. Now, when I answer this question in the 2 parts, whether you are serious or whether you are prepared for the May attempt or you want to give another attempt, there's no wrong in giving one more attempt. I must tell you, my dear friends, few of my very best friends at that time, when there was no 2 CLAT in a single year, used to prepare for twice 2 or 3 years in consecutively and then give CLAT exam each year. So this is basically a blessing for the law school aspirants right now, that you can give the exam twice this year. So your preparation strategy should be ideally to prepare completely for the May exam. And if you do not get the desired law school of your choosing, then attempt the December exam. Or if you are in class 11th, then attempt the December exam. Yes. So right now in 11th class, to be very true. So that's what my strategy will be, that how you should take these 2 exams. You should prepare for the May exam. And if you do not get the law school of your desired choosing, then only attempt the December exam. And also, I must tell you what happened previously with a lot of students is when they cracked law entrance examination, they got a law school but not of their choosing. So they try to give the exam back again. So what happens is there are 2 chances. You get a better college or you get a college which is lower, which is, I will not say, but as per the rankings which is given by various agencies, comes lower to what you received during your first attempt. So you have to be very careful. You have to be very careful when making your application, when choosing whether to join or not to join. In my opinion, you should ideally join a law school. And what Professor Krishna mentioned about the life at a law school is completely different. And if Harvey would have lived, if he would have showed how he lived it, it would be a real real life interpretation in real life. I will not say the Mike didn't went to the law school, but that's only goes for a real life aspect. But what is primarily really important, and I must tell you, is while you're preparing for the May exam, the first and foremost thing which you must ideally understand, it's 2 hour exam, 150 question, there's a negative marking, and as always have been, and you don't need to worry about what was the old exam structure, but what lies ahead. And the same which was earlier existing from 2008 when CLAT came into existence, it remains the same. The focus, 25% of the focus is given to the legal part, 25% to the general knowledge, which includes current affairs to be very true, 10% focus on quantitative aptitude, logical reasoning and English language have 20% each. They have 20% portion in these particular paper. But what I must tell you is from my experience and guiding law school aspirant is once you go through what so syllabus has been provided by the CLAD consortium, dear students. There is a syllabus which is provided by the CLAD consortium, which says UG syllabus and guide. This is very deceptive. I must not say that, but it is. I'm really happy that this year when they mentioned about the general knowledge and current affairs, they have categorically mentioned legal knowledge. Earlier, what used to happen is legal knowledge questions used to come in the GK part, and the students were like, "Sir, legal portion got much more importance. They mentioned 25%, but the questions were 30%, so it will be." So what I want to say, and I will be answering it throughout this particular session, is that you must go through the syllabus first. You must go through the guide first, the CLAT consortium, and I'm very happy, and I thank them for providing brief introduction to all the sections which are asked in law entrance examination, common law admission test, and preparing YouTube videos, short videos, wherein the students can understand what is being asked from them. So Pratikesh and my dear students, what I can tell you is that this is how you should prepare. Broadly highlight what is to be asked. You should go through the sample paper provided by CLAT Consortium. And I understand that the sample paper which is on their website is of 2020 itself, so there has been no upgrade. So I wish, and I'm all hopeful that they will come up with more sample papers per se. But that sample paper, when the CLAT Consortium came up with the new so-called pattern, and a lot of students prepared through that sample paper and then went to give the real exam. There were matches, but there were mismatches as well. So we must be prepared for every given situation. And what is this situation is questions coming from those areas which you didn't prepare. But how to prepare them? Let me answer when Pratikesh asked them. Pratikesh, over to you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So as you discussed that this pattern has only 2 questions in 2020 and 2021. So my next question is whether those past year papers from 2008 to 2019 are still relevant, and should the student practice those question papers or not, or should they just focus on the sample papers given in 2020 and these 2 past year papers?
Okay, that's a very wonderful question, Pratikesh.
Sir, you have muted.
Earlier also, Pratikesh, when the students used to prepare for CLAT in the previous pattern, what primarily used to happen is we used to tell them to go through the past year papers, including those which were not of CLAT, but they were the specific national or university oriented papers, such as we used to solve it in the Jodhpur paper, and NUJS papers, NLS papers from years on. So taking that cue right now to your question is, yes, you should ideally go through the CLAT papers from 2008 onwards. Why so? Because there are certain sections which have remained the same, such as English language. English language primarily will bring forward to you reading comprehension. And in those papers from CLAT 2008 onwards also, there were reading questions on reading comprehension. So that part hasn't changed. But earlier there used to be one reading comprehension question, one reading comprehension or two reading comprehension max. Now the entire paper is reading comprehension. So that will primarily help. The second part of the paper, which goes by journal knowledge. Journal knowledge primarily may also, if you solve these past year papers, you will come to realize what are those important topics or those areas from where the questions are picked up. Like I would have completely devoted myself to, if I was studying history, I have always said, you have to focus largely on modern Indian history. You have to focus on the Indian freedom struggle. That is where the questions will come from. It is very rarely that you get questions on pre-Vedic age. Although when you read this book of Arihant, or you read Manorama, or you read yearbooks, or you go through your static knowledge booklets provided to you, you primarily read everything. But when you go to these past year papers, then you realize the questions are primarily on India's freedom struggle, Indian National Congress, the questions on the Swaraj movement, etc., etc. per se. So that learning is really, really important. That will help you understand which areas from the journal knowledge are important and which you should ideally focus on. Next, when it comes down to legal reasoning, what has changed is that you get a passage, and based upon those passage, you get the question. Earlier, what used to happen, you used to get a rule. Yes, there was a principle, and based upon that principle, you would have to solve a particular question. That was a pattern. You would have seen that part. I hope so, dear students. Right now, what it says, and I must quote from the CLAT consortium point of view. In the given passage by the CLAT consortium, you must identify and infer the rules and principle. You must identify and infer the rules and principle. So as you infer the rules and principle, my dear friends, that primarily brings down to the questions which are followed after those passages. You are primarily applying those well-known principle or rule of law to the passages which are to the questions which are now in the form of passages. So I just want to tell you whether I go for logical reasoning, the same aspect applies, or to quantitative aptitude, which has now come up with another diversified area. Earlier, they were very less focused on the graphs or textual or pictorial representation, but now there is. So that's the only thing which has changed. Apart from that, I will completely agree that apart from the sample papers released by CLAT Consortium for the new pattern, you must go through these past year papers, but at least try to solve twice the sample paper released by CLAT Consortium and at least 5 times the past year papers in the new format. That will give you the much needed confidence to appear in CLAT 2022. Pratikesh.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. And now, from both of you, like you both of you have mentored so many students. So from both of you, I want to know what preparation strategy. What will be your suggestion for the preparation strategy for CLAT 2022? Because it is just in 4 months. So I want to know the preparation strategy from her sir and also from Deepu sir.
Okay. So as I missed the first question, I will take this, and then Professor Krishna will take it forward. So the part which I want to tell you is that you ideally mentioned, Pratikesh, there are 2 CLATs this year. That's one thing. The second thing you mentioned about there are 4 months remaining to prepare for this law entrance examination. But what I must tell you, my dear friends, is that you must be really, really confident when you are preparing for CLAT 2022. Why? Because what happens is at least 30 to 40% of the law school aspirants who appear for CLAT exam just prepare via crash course. What is this crash course? It's a 1-month course just before the actual exam. So when you look into the timeline, you are ahead by 3 months. You are ahead by 3 months. That must give you a much needed confidence that you have more time to prepare, and you would have actually been preparing for all this while, and you would have actually finished off your 80% of the syllabus, and that's a happy news. But the next 4 months, the strategy should ideally be very, very clear. First and foremost, what I told you, you must solve the past year paper in the new format, the sample paper. There's a second part. The third part, which primarily I want to let you know, is that you must read the syllabus very carefully, which is mentioned by CLAT Consortium. And again, try solving mocks as regularly as possible. Try to give at least one mock in a week. That makes for 4 mocks in a month. That makes for 4 fours are 16 mocks in this given time frame. And once you do so, you will understand what are those relevant topics which are being in the focus. How do you really how you are really managing the time aspect of the exam? Second part. Third, you must give this exam in an actual exam mode. You must not be disturbed. You must not be disturbed. You must not be doing 2 or 3 things simultaneously while you're giving this mock exam. These should be treated really, really seriously. And what is really, really important, I must tell you, what differentiates between 2 law school aspirants is their monitoring of how they have developed over each mock. So prepare a notebook, prepare a page where you mention about mock 1, your score, time taken, mock 2, your score, time taken, and how are you growing. If you're not growing, go back to your mentors, ask them the question, why you are not doing so. Ask them those topics which you must specifically focus. Point number 2. Point number 3, if due to the ongoing pandemic condition, your faculty member or your guide is not available, go to the YouTube, go to Google, search for those questions. Identify those people who can help you in this fraternity. Try sending them cold messages and asking them, because it's your time, it's your opportunity. You can't miss this time, and you can't miss this opportunity of cracking common law admission test. So you must identify what is your weakness and your strength, and how do you identify? By solving these sample papers, solving these mock papers, solving these past year papers, and that is how you will identify what are those weaknesses. Build upon your strength, but also focus on your weakness. Put a special emphasis on this. Everybody has a different strategy of cracking common law admission tests, and I must share with you so that you are not in a worrisome state. There were few people who did not even started solving or have not solved the maths part, but still went to National University, including my younger brother. Few of the people missed some questions, but this really okay. I have always told all the law school aspirants I have ever interacted with, हर question की value सिर्फ एक number है. I mean to say that each question is valued of just 1 marks. So किसी एक खास question से दिल लगी नहीं करनी है. अगर आपको नहीं आता, move on करें next question पे. So you do not have to get attached to a one particular question just because you read that particular topic. If you're not able to solve them in the first 15 seconds, you do not understand what is the question asking about, then go ahead to the next question. That's what my strategy will be while solving the real question or the sample questions. For the 4 month, ideally there are 5 sections. You can do month-wise, or you can identify one. You can give 1 day, Monday to legal. That's also another strategy. Third strategy employed is every given day you study all these 5 subjects, but give them the time as is needed. Like if from particular topic you get 10 questions, give them 1 hour of your day. If from legal there are 25 questions, spend 2 hours. That's how. I don't think in English you will find that kind of a crazy time format where you are just reading and reading. So you in your while in school also we have this compulsory English paper wherein this reading comprehension comes in. We all have gone through that phase of going through the Wren and Martin, what Professor Krishna also referred to, the red colored book. So you or some of your seniors would have recommended you Word Power Made Easy. So you would have already gone through half of that. Whatever stage you are, identify your weakness, strength, give the time needed for the preparation, and actually understand the time is really, really critical, and time is running. The paper will be there, and it will be the same for all law school aspirant. So what you must primarily focus on is your preparation, how you will be solving this paper, and out of these 150 questions, what is the cutoff? What was the previous cutoff? How much you need to get? How will you get to that 100+ marker? That's where your thinking will get involved, and that is where you can get back to each one of us. Over to Pratikation, Professor Krishna.
Well, I guess Harsh has covered almost all the areas which strategically has to be put across by the student. I would rather advise be mentally more strong, because I've seen students who are scoring really good in mocks. They are the toppers, but in those 2 hours or whatever hour the examination is, something happens and everything goes in thin air. Now, like I often used to tell students, there's this boy who's really good at studies, mocks, etc. He does really good. A very pretty female comes and sits with him in the examination center. It's gone for him. So such instances have been told to me by my own students. They come and say, "Sir, I've lost it." So anything can go wrong in those few hours, where the only purpose that you have to answer right from the day of the examination, get up morning, tell yourself, today is the day when I need to perform. You know, there are very inspirational movies like Rocky. Some movies which tell you about the meaning of the purpose of your life, where when you're going to perform on that specific day, nothing else matters. If something which matters is proving to the world that you exist and this is what you have done. So when you move into that examination hall, stay with that purpose, that the national law schools are asking you one question: do you have it in you? And each question, like Harsh said, each question is an answer from your end. Yes, I have it in me to be a national law school student, to be a law student, to be someone who can create a difference. And each question means it. English, they're asking you, is your English good enough? Can you interpret the sections of sections of IPC and the articles of Constitution? Do you know how right to life became such a valuable right? That's exactly what they'll ask in legal reasoning. In mathematics, they'll ask you, are you calculative? Do you have a calculative brain? Come on, show us. It's you who is proving the same. From cricket, I would try to pick up a page and say, like what Harsh said, out of all those questions, there are some questions which are meant to be left, like Virat Kohli, right? He's such a great batsman, but nowadays he's failing on the offside. There are some balls which are to be left because you cannot play it. Very simple. Like he said, mathematics, you have to leave means you have to leave. That might be your Achilles heel. But given the negative marking, yes, some questions have to be left. But there should not be one question that you know and you're leaving. I'm again repeating, there should not be one question that you know and you're left. Because it takes great courage to come out of the examination hall and tell your parents and your friends, oh, I knew that questions, but I left it. You know how you look? You look like a buffoon when you say that. You look like an idiot. You're making a complete idiot out of you when you say, I knew it, but I left it. Man, that was one question closer to the law school of your dreams, and you left it. That was so many days of preparation that you have left it, for which you have to be mentally strong. So each mock you appear in, each test you give in, each moment you sit and study, anything you watch, that is all a part of your preparation. Work hard, because working hard doesn't stop here. When you go to a law school, you have to work double hard. Because it is fun, but if you ask me, the first 2 years might be a bit problematic for you. That's exactly, Pratish is also laughing because he also probably understands that. The first 2 years are very tough because we think, kya ho raha bhai? What is happening with us? We came here because we wanted to enjoy law school life, but then it is hard, but it is fun because at the end of the day, you are at least not mugging of formulas, you're not dealing with imaginary situation or trying to find the value of X. If you are studying what has happened in our country, what is happening around the world, you are even studying about what may happen and you are preparing the humanity for it, for which these entrance examinations and the kind of psyche and the kind of mental prowess which is required is very important. So 4 months, 1 month, 1 week, there are students who have even done it in 2 weeks. I had a student long back, her name is Chitrakshi, and she cracked Nalsar within 2 weeks of preparation because her mother was an IIT professor and she wanted her to crack IIT. So she kept on preparing, and 2 hours she used to come and study with me, but she was very clear she wants to do law because her dad was an IPS officer. She said, I'm very mesmerized by IPS and I want to be IPS and I want to go to law school. After completing the JE, she came and prepared 2 weeks, but mind it, she was preparing all along also. For 2 weeks, she prepared and she cracked it. That's willpower. That's you telling to the world that I have it what it takes. And believe me, it does not matter which standard you are from. You may be from an Hindi medium, from an English medium. And I want to crack this myth here, because many people, when in the first submission, when I said, English is all that matter, many students might have taken a backseat and started thinking, "Arey, my English is weak." There's nothing called as weak English, believe me. When it comes to proper British English, the Queen's English, in India, most of the people, except for lawyers, are weak. You ask them to write a single sentence, you'll understand that where English is. But you ask a lawyer to write a sentence, he'll ask you twice what is the purpose behind that sentence, because he wants to mean it what he writes. And that's what I'm referring to. And if you ask me, students from small towns have better English than students from metropolitan cities, because they have Americanized English, which is not what it plays in law. In the legal arena, it's all about British English. Okay, so I want to correct what I said in the first, because many students interpret it in a very wrongful manner, right? So the last few days, last few weeks, this is what you have to be. Whatever Harsh said, plus mentally you have to be strong. You have to think that you are Dhoni and you're playing that last, the inning of the World Cup final, where it's upon you. With the responsibility, you have to go stand there and perform and then bring the cup home. So when the day the results are declared, your name should be there on the selection. That's what you should dream about. That's exactly how your psyche and your mind should be. Go ahead and appear in the entrance examination, crack it. Simple.
And of course, there's one thing which I missed, Pratikesh, and this is really, really critical, is that students who give a common law admission tests are from different part of this country. So what happens is, primarily, if somebody I interact who is from Dhanbad or Ranchi or comes from Unnao in Uttar Pradesh, so they think that it is very, very difficult for them to clear this exam, because mostly people from big cities will clear this exam. This is a misconception. This is completely wrong. And I must tell you, I have mentored kids in these areas, and I can vouch for it. The brilliance is existing at every part of this country. First thing, and secondly, you need to believe in yourself. Uh, one of the very few kids whom I remember fondly is at NLSIO Bangalore, and why I'm just mentioning him is, the reason is he is from Ranchi. He's from Ranchi, and what used to happen is, I used to meet him, and what he used to tell me, so it's very hard managing this part, that part. Our English is this, our English is. But I must tell you, that kid cracked this common law admission test while he was in class 12. Point number one. Point number two, he used to manage schools along with his law interest preparation. Point number two. Third, he cleared AI-LET. He cleared common law admission test. Right now, he's studying at LSI Bangalore. So when I give these kind of example, or the second individual again from Varanasi, same class 12th, cleared both of this exam. He's right now at NLU Delhi. Again, these can give you that much more courage, that you can go after your dreams, you can secure your dreams. And what Professor Krishna mentioned is that the number of days have actually never mattered. Number of days have actually never mattered. Some of them got their acting debut, cricketing debut while they were 30 plus. Same goes for law entrance examination. Few of the kids secured their ranks even without preparing for more than a month. And I know most few of them actually in real life. They have graduated from National Law University, or right now they are in National Law University. But these examples should give you much more focus and a learning that whatever the situation is, everything is possible. Even if some of you will say to me, tell me after giving this exam, sir, I was unwell for 10 days, 15 days, therefore my focus got over, otherwise I would have cracked this exam. My dear friends, these remaining the 15 days, just remove them out of the picture. They are always those 15 days. We used to count them for holy vacation or other vacations where your moods are, where you are not in that mood to study at all. But apart from that, you must study. You must ensure that the number of hours you miss during these 7 days, you must calculate those hours and give it extra on the other days. And that is where you will crack this entrance examination. Pratikesh.
Thank you, Deepu sir and Harsh sir. These days we have so many options of having mentors. We get suggestions from YouTube, from Telegram, WhatsApp, Facebook channels. Ki this should be your strategy. But what do you think? Should a student more focus on their after getting information from all the mentors and teachers? Should they focus on creating their own strategy for their preparation? Uh, let's say there is a student, he got like a preparation strategy from so many mentors. Now what how will you suggest them to go about it? Like every mentor have their own strategy, so he will be full of so many inputs. So should he take out the things which is suitable for his preparation, or should he blindly follow those things? So
Pratikesh, before Professor Krishna answers that, from his wide experience and having seen more of these situations and knowing almost all the mentors in this country, I must tell one thing. Let's take an example. And it's an example of a young Indian cricketer, Rishabh Pant. First and foremost, you should understand whom you are listening to. Yes, few commentators who have not done nothing, and I must not name them at least. They have their own YouTube channel also, telling all strategies, but have never played those cricketing shot. Tell Rishabh Pant to play in a particular manner. Along with that, few of the ex-cricketers who never face those kind of balls which are used in current times are now telling these current cricketers of what to do. That's the second example. The third example is the uncle in my mohalla who knows nothing about that segment, telling them what to prepare and what to do. Same goes for law entrance examination, Pratikesh, and my dear friends. It is really, really important to whom you listen, to whom you follow, and what you do after listening to those relevant people. Yes, if a relative of mine who is a mechanical engineer comes to my house and tells me that this is how I should teach the constitutional law, I will say thank you very much. The same goes for law school aspirants. You must be very, very clear that there is a syllabus given to you. There are sample papers given to you. There are past year papers given to you. There are those resources which are unlimited, but yes, you can limit those resources. And then there are those real mentors. You identify them in your life as your Jitu Bhaiya, yes, or your master, if I must say. In either of these categories, if somebody falls in, listen to them, and you actually know if they are telling you, because if you listen to them and then give another mock entrance examination and you fall into the success line, yes, listen to them. If you feel that there is a particular subject area where they can help you, they are your mentor, listen to them in that brief area. Not more than that. That's what my suggestion to all of you. Over to Professor Krishna.
Well, you said it right, Harsh. As far as I know, throughout my years of preparation, I never used to believe in one fact, and it was one size does not fit all. Okay, so if a general comment is being said that work on in this way and it will be all done for you, that's fallacy. As in, for me, that's not how it works. Each student attending this and each student appearing for the entrance examination may have their own strengths and weaknesses which they know. No person, even me or anyone, any great Clad guru or anyone, they don't know you because there is a certain part of you which you do not disclose to anyone, right? Because of some hidden strategy or because of some hidden issues with ourselves, we do not open up. But the one who knows you the most, you yourself. You're getting it? It's you yourself. You know that, okay, my strength lies here and my weaknesses lies here. The only issue is you would go and want to confirm it with someone. Where these Clad gurus, Clad mentors like us come into being, where you come and tell us your version and based upon that we tell you. You're getting it? So there is nothing like totally transparent in this world. You may hide certain facts. And that's what I have learned even after law school when I was even counseling clients also. The client will never come and tell you what are the real facts. He will always hide certain things. That's exactly how counseling also happens. The kid would come, it will take a lot of pestering, and that to one-on-one to actually let him tell that, okay, I'm addicted to Instagram. I'm addicted to Snapchat. So you have to understand what is more important here, right? A mentor telling you certain things is basically that poor guy understanding you from his perspective. You understand yourself much better. You should have a good knowledge about what is right and what is wrong for you. In those subjects, you might be really good, but you might have another weakness. For example, you might be a patient of the new pandemic, which we have called as depression and anxiety, right? Which is basically nothing but a man-made disease, which many of us are today facing. Now, that is not something which a CLAT mentor knows, right? You might be really good, you might be performing, but on the day of the examination, the depression arrives, the anxiety attack comes. So having known yourself so much better, you should decide what are your priorities and how to devise a proper structural plan. And there should always be a plan B. I'm one of those who in life, even when I want to take my family out, I always have a plan B. That if this doesn't work out, this has to work out. You should have a plan B. So if an anxiety attack also comes, you always have something in your mind that, okay, I have a plan B. So strategies are made like this. If you read history, the best of the best kings, Napoleon, Alexander, Vikramaditya, all these guys always relied on their plan B. They were like, okay, if this doesn't work, this has to work. That should be your strategy. You may go to 10 CLAT gurus and ask them, they'll all give you 10, but that is not your plan B. Plan B is you, what you think about yourself, what you are. And you know, okay, exactly this is how things are going to come and this is how I want to go. I often repeat something which I have not repeated for the past 3 years because I have not been interacting with the CLAT students. But one thing which has really worked for students when I used to tell them was, guys, if the paper is tough, be very happy. There are some students, the moment the paper is tough, they start sitting there and cry. For them, 30 to 20 minutes are gone. While on the other hand, I would say if the paper is tough, be happy because it's tough for everyone. It's tough for everyone. The moment the paper is tough, your idea should be to get right answers as much as you can. I'm again saying, do not leave a single question which you know. Try to grab them as much as you can. Now, when the paper is easy, then you really hide. Then you have to pull up your socks and say, man, 190, 180, that is where I'm going to stop. If it is of 200, that's what, during my time, it was 200. So I used to tell students, aim for 180, 190. Don't go anything below it. Because if the paper is easy, it's easy for even that student who might have who's just sitting there after giving a JE paper, or someone who's thinking about engineering and law is just his SOS. You're getting it? So be very clear on these strategies. These are those things which matter. And CLAT mentors, they are teaching so many students. So they give that generalized opinion. Always rely on a plan B. Follow what they're saying according to your strengths and weaknesses. But in case if it doesn't fall in line, you have a plan B, which is your own and which you should work on. I'm very sure you might have seen this movie which just released, Spider-Man. I and Harsh have already seen it 3 times. By accident we have seen it 3 times. In that movie, if you see, when those 3 Spider-Mans are attacking, they don't have a plan, right? And the moment they attack, everything goes haywire. But then they limber up, they come back, and then they have their small meeting, and then they plan. That's exactly how plan B works. That if this doesn't work, then let's go by our strengths. Let's go one by one at a time. That's how you have to work, right? That's my 2 cents.
And of course, adding on to this, as Professor Krishna mentioned about Plan B, now don't go back to YouTube and type Plan B, or you will get an aspirant from TVF episode, you will watch it, and you will say that that was a Plan B. So don't do that. That will be a mistake.
Yes. So my next question will be, how important is it to read newspapers in these 4 months? Because there are some mentors who have asked the students to stop reading newspapers. They should just focus on their CLAT material and not read newspapers for these 4 months. So what is your take?
Pratikesh, I don't know who has said that, but actually, whoever has said that, I will again ask them to revisit their opinion and go through the last year paper or even 1 year back and go through that paper and really, really go through. The best part is these years, it is actually mentioned from which date, which article that passage has been taken. And actually, most of the time it is from January to the day of the exam. And that's what I have learned and I have seen. And actually, that's true. So if somebody is saying don't read their newspaper within these 4 months, what I can actually ask them is to revisit their opinion. But to the student or the aspirants preparing for law entrance examination, my dear friends, uh, I'm not asking you to just follow me blindly. But again, there are sample papers, there are past year papers. Go through them. There is a source mentioned. And if you think that those questions have not come from these last 4 months, your choice. But I've told you how to approach this, where to look for the sources, what the timeline, and then you will realize that reading those newspapers is really, really important. But what to more than whether to read a newspaper or not, what to read in a newspaper is much more important. Yes, Professor Krishna told you to gave you example of some movies. Now, if you start saying that movies are from where I get learnings from, then you will start watching everything. That's not how it happens. Yes. So in the same way, the newspaper is made for everyone throughout this country, for even the uncles who want to visit the news in UP, to the sports enthusiasts, to the people who just want to go through the last page and want to understand industry, input in music and entertainment. And then there is a page on economics. What is really, really important for you is primarily, I must tell you, the middle pages are most important. And what are these pages? These are editorials and opinions. And how I'm telling you this, the reason is the same. Go through these past year papers, go through these sample papers, and you will understand from where those passages were picked up. Yes, and those were those important pages which we actually miss from where the questions were picked up. I know you will feel like, so that's too much to read. But from my experience, I can tell you that once you start reading, you will realize that these topics are repetitive in nature. Like if you read about right to privacy, one passage in a single day, then the other day you will read about right to privacy again with 2 new lines or 3 more lines, and that will be the entire focus. So actually, the next time you feel convenient after reading those passages, because you have already read that particular topic or that particular thought process, and that is what you are being prepared for. So when in the exam those topic or the passages comes in front of you, you know, oh, I have read this particular part. I understand where this term privacy comes from. I understand Article 21 will be related. I understand KS Puttaswamy case will be somewhere in this passage. And once you are answering those questions, you recall that and you know that you are good to go. And that is where you are ahead of your competitors. Professor Krishna.
Well, I partially agree with what some of them have said, and I disagree also. That's how I would rather answer this, because we don't have newspapers now. All of them are newspaper basically, and most of them are filled with editorials and advert articles which talks about a specific government or opposition or their plans, or else keeps reporting things which don't matter. So even Hindu, it's my personal opinion which I'm saying. Even Hindu was a newspaper during our times, was very good. It was not how it is now. It has become nothing but a political opinion, a paper which gives political opinion. So there is not much left there to be read. So if someone says something like this, they're right also, because there are much more things which are available on websites and apps. I don't now read newspapers. I've totally, thanks to the pandemic at home also, I've stopped subscribing to the same. On the other hand, I have apps like InShots, etc., which keeps me updated minute by minute about what is happening. But then what newspapers would do to you is the language which I was talking right from the start, and also talking about a critical level of thinking, which is important. Like Harsh said, it's between those middle pages where those articles and opinions, etc., are written by people. So that's exactly where you should go read If you do not agree with an article, you can critically evaluate it. If you agree with it, probably you will gain something out of it. You'll say, okay, this is exactly what is happening. So that is something which you can gain out of newspapers. And initially what used to be, as in long back, I'm talking about 2007, 8, 9, 10, when students used to devote specifically 2 hours or 1.5 hours for reading a newspaper, now can be done in 15 minutes to 20 minutes. That's what newspapers have now ended up becoming. Times of India is more interested in what Taimur is doing rather than anything which is more more instrumental in making a state accountable for its actions. So in that way, there is nothing left to be read. One thing I can advise you all is, and that is my strong gut, and many a times I have even been proven right, there is this magazine called as EPW, Economic and Political Weekly. From there, most of the reading comprehensions were picked up during our time, because these professors of national law schools, they do read EPW a lot. So if you go to a national law school, if you visit the residence of a professor, you would see EPW lying there. They write articles also. Even national law school students also write articles in EPW. Many of my articles were published in EPW. And they do read, and if they like an article, they would pick it up and they say, okay, this is exactly from where we'll create a reading comprehension. So that is much better than reading a newspaper, because that also speaks about current affairs and also the various dimensions and the aspects relating to whatever is happening in the economic, socio-political, international scenario of the country. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Sir, next question is from our student is, how much is it important to study legal static GK and legal theory when there will be passages coming in the paper?
Okay. So now coming on to this particular part, and that is where I asked the candidates to go through the syllabus which is being provided. And I am quoting it from again CLAT Consortium. It is written within the subject area of current affairs and general knowledge. And it states, and I quote, the passage will be derived from news, journalistic art sources, and other non-fiction writing. The questions may include an examination of legal information. The questions may include an examination of legal information or knowledge. So when I look into that part, legal information or knowledge, that is where the answer comes to for this particular candidate. And apart from that, you are not only just giving common law admission test, my dear friend, you will be giving other law entrance examination, yes, and you will be preparing for legal question, those legal related questions as well. Whether you are preparing for AI-led, you are preparing for the BHU entrance examination, or for Army Institute of Law, or other entrance examination. Yes, some private law school exams. So again, there are questions on legal aptitude, and let it be very candid that there is only few part in there's only fewer questions in legal knowledge, legal aptitude which are being asked. So if you would just go through, just devote 2 days and you will understand the basics. You have to understand the basis of contract law, the basis of constitutional law, basis of the criminal law, basis of the IPR, basis of the international law, and what is really, really happy and amazing news for all of you is all these lectures are already available within Project Maverick. You just need to go to YouTube, type Project Maverick, type that particular part of law, and you will get a 50-minute class on this particular topic. So if you even sit for a single day, my dear friend, you are good to go. You are good to go. Then what remains is, I must also tell you. Then there are questions on the meaning of some legal terms. Yes. So in your application, Project Maverick application, Pratikesh, correct me if I'm wrong. There is a legal folder. Within that legal folder, there are also files or so-called lessons on these legal terms. Yes, go through them. These are most important terms. That is how you prepare. Yes, those and some of the questions you must already be knowing because you are preparing for GK. Yes, which also says general knowledge. In general knowledge, if I pick up any book of general knowledge, there's a portion called polity. Yes or no? Yes. So polity in general knowledge is legal knowledge for legal aptitude portion. So anyhow, you are reading that. Anyhow, you are reading that. Yes, at least you are reading entire aspect of constitutional law related to legal knowledge. What fewer questions remain on other aspect of the law? You can go through these lessons and cover them up, and they are important. Understand they are important because what happens is in current legal dimension, if we go through some passage, there will be some legal terms which will be used primarily, whether the term is amendment, whether the term is that the government is coming up with a new parliamentary session in the news. Yes, whether you hear this term called bill, whether you hear about some of the changes made to the already existing laws. That's another part. Whether you hear about cryptocurrency. Yes. So the current legal knowledge, the existing legal knowledge is really, really important. And understand you should not leave it because you are preparing for other entrance examination also. And even in CLAT, they are asked.
Thank you, sir. Sir, the next question is how to build English vocabulary, legal maxim or legal term vocabulary for the CLAT exam.
Okay. Now, before I answer this particular question, I would invite Professor Krishna to answer this particular part. Why? The reason being that he produced the AIR one, All India Rank one, uh, from Madhya Pradesh. In the city of Bhopal, that kid was studying uh, with sir, and there were kids who were from in and around the area of Bhopal, and these kids were having special questions on their ability to solve English related questions. So I will ask him to answer first, then I will take it forward.
Yeah, Harsh is right when he says I produce, but believe me, I just mentored him. He was himself a great champion who came from adversities, and he became Aditya Birla Scholar also. So if you want to be an Aditya Birla Scholar, your English has to be really good because you have to write an essay which gets checked by one of the best scholars from this country, right? So his name is Akash Jain, and he's right now in NS Bangalore. He's graduating this year. So yeah, about English vocab. Now, lawyers follow a very different set of vocabulary. So if a layman, I call people who have not done law as layman. If a layman says damage, it means something which is broken. Say that to a lawyer and he means money, right? Damages. That's what is called as the legal vocabulary. Now, I've given you a very simple example, but if you ask me, there are various words which comes to a lawyer very naturally. So even when you will be attending your first class where probably legal methods is being taught, the professor would come and use the word precedent very easily. He will say this is a precedent. Now, thanks to all the CLAT coachings and projects like Project Maverick, they have already made you akin to these terms called as precedent. It took me 2 months to realize, because when I came to the first year, I had no knowledge about this word called as precedent. The professor who was in front of us was taking the word precedent, and I had no clue what he's saying. I rather thought he's talking about the president of India. That's how easily the words are spoken in law schools, because they think if you have reached here, you have that kind of a knowledge. And yeah, I was the second youngest guy in my batch because most of them were in the second or third year of graduation and had cracked law school examination. So I and my another friend called as Jimmy, we were the youngest batch people who were just out of 12th examination and cracked the national law school and sitting, because then they had already done first or second year in some BA. So they had an idea about precedents being taught. The kind of vocab which they use in law school is different just because of the reason. Just like if you go and meet a doctor, the terms he uses is also very different. So a profession like what it is, because doctors, us, we are professionals, right? So a profession like what law is, there are certain things which are very core and integral to the syllabus. And that's why the expectation from a law school that you should know legal language or legal terms or legal vocabulary is very, very legitimate. how to understand them. Now it's very simple. I used to tell students our technique. Each of these terms, each of these legal vocabulary terms is connected to some of the other subjects that you are being taught. If not, try finding the root of these things. For example, if I say consensus ad idem, it means consenting on the same thing in the same sense. What is it connected to? It is connected to the law of contracts, right? So that's how you have to connect legal vocab to subjects. Mens rea, it is connected to criminal law. Actus rea, connected to criminal law. So that's the technique of learning it rather than just sitting and cramming. So there is one word which I used to tell students that learn it in such a manner that it's abuse. So if you want to abuse someone, just tell them you are non-compos mentis. Non-compos mentis means a person who is mad, a person who is mentally insane. So there has to be more and more of usage of these words. The more you use these terms, the more you get into these terms, it becomes easier for you. And you won't believe it, by the time you are in the second year, you would be talking like a lawman. You would start conversing where these legal terms will just come very naturally to you. So when you are talking to even your parents, you may just say, that's something which is sine qua non for it. And then your parents would be looking at you and say, what did you say? And you're like, oh, I said it's the most essential thing for it. You're getting it. So you have to use them and you have to understand that this is what is going to be your life. Yeah.
Yes, and first and foremost, see, all of us, when we were preparing for law entrance examination, we were worried about these terms. My dear friends, that they are in n number of terms which are mentioned there, such as legal maxims. But understand, primarily, that is where my answer to the question, should you refer to the past year papers, gets important. That once you go through these papers, you will understand there are few words which are only repeated. There's nothing like, I must tell you, there's nothing like if I tell you, if you go for a BHU entrance examination and if you have a list of 100 legal maxims, the questions will be from it, to be very true. And the people who have given this exam or trained for these exams can vouch for it, that the list is only of 100 legal maxim. To be very true, if you have watched some videos from the mentors who prepare for you, or you watch them on YouTube, they will say that we are teaching legal maxims, but when it comes to the actual class, it will go for only 20 minutes and only 20 legal maxims. Yes. So what I'm trying to tell you is that if you think it's too difficult, then only it's difficult. But if you understand there are only 50 to 60 really important legal maxims or these phases, then the job becomes easy. And how do you remember them? That's what the main important question is. And they remember them by the frequent usage. So why does a particular individual starts by dear this greetings? Because that's practice. Yes. So if you start saying that what Professor Krishna mentioned about sine qua non, or for that matter, if you start saying that somebody is asking you how was your year and you say it was annus mirabilis, or somebody is asking you about your pension for something, then you understand. Once you start using these terms now, they pension, or for that matter, bona fide, mala fide, for the matter, acta rea, mens rea. So you clearly, once you start using this term, you do not feel like they are some foreign terms to you. You basically make them a part of your life, the part of your discussions, and that's where these terms become really easy. Understand? 2 years back or 1 year back, when you have no clue about what is this copyright or trademark, then they were alien terms to you. Now somebody mentions to you copyright, you're like, yes, I know there's Indian copyright law. You are there is a term called infringement also. Mention it to some layman, a term called infringement, and they will be like, oh, some big heavy term it is. But for you, it's a daily use term, infringement. For you, the daily use term is uh, a budget session. For another individual, it can be a very, very difficult term. Somebody will say it's the budget presentation, but you will go there and say it's an annual financial statement, because budget is not the term mentioned even in Indian Constitution. And once you start using these things in your discussions, and that's where you get the power to go for the questions on maxims. And these are very, very limited. And I promise you, these are very limited. I will urge Pritikesh to give you that list already available if you go through the Maverick lessons. But again, I would urge him to give you the list again so that you can prepare well. And then let him ask you questions based upon those legal maxims.
And so my next question is like in exam, whether to read the entire passage, or is there any way to skip reading the passage and go to the question? And is there any set pattern in which one should attempt the paper, or should they like practice with mocks and experiment with mocks and then go about it? So what are your
Pratikesh, I
suggestions?
must tell you, you are answering, you are giving me, you are asking me leading questions. To be very true. Uh, Now, what happens is the strategy is very different for each of the individuals. Uh, when I speak with the candidates, my strategy has always been to ask them to answer those questions, which looks very easy to them. Yes, the first 5 minutes you get the paper, you scroll through the entire paper, and you understand these are the questions. Then in your head, it goes down that this is the easy one, I should appear it. Once you start appearing for those easy questions or those passages which you are aware of, you get that much needed confidence to go through the other parts. It's always a brain game. Giving an exam is an art. It's always a brain game. The exam is more of a recalling ability and how you maintain your composure during those 2 hours than anything else. It has nothing to do with what people have called this individual is intelligent, he can do so or she can do so. It's more than that. And what is really, really important is how you approach this exam. And that's what Pratikesh you are asking. So what I must tell you, it's completely different for each individual. Yes. One of the students I taught, he started with maths. Yes. And for me, I left that particular part 20 marks at that point of time, 2013. So see, the strategy completely changed. Yes. One individual started with maths and he told me, sir, इसमें तो आंसर या तो सही है या गलत है और सही ही होगा because I know this. You see the confidence. 10 out of 10 was done. Good to go. I have to score 100 to get into a good law school. 10 already done. So now I'm going after 90. That's what eases your mind. For me, I went for the general knowledge part because I felt that confidence that if there are these questions, I will actually do 90% of them correct. And for few people, it is legal reasoning because they have solved it for time immemorial before giving this exam. So once they go through that and they find out that there's a passage they are aware of, they find out it is about Article 14 or Principle of Natural Justice, they appear it front. So for every individual, it is quite different, but you have to devise your own strategy. But what is really, really important is within the first 10 minutes of the exam, if you get that much needed confidence, if you get a happy feeling solving that exam, the complete picture changes. Is the first 5 to 10 minutes. If you start crying, nahi aata, ye kaise hoga, kya ho jayega, fail ho jayega, or you look at somebody individual who's like, this is a tough paper, but you look at somebody who's really, really calm and doing the paper, and you're thinking paper is the same. The paper is the same, but which question an individual approaches first is the real catch.
Thank you, sir. Sir, like I have more two questions. So the next question is how to balance board exams with CLAT exam and other law entrance exams. So there are students in class 2. So how to balance it? Because 12th is equally important.
Of course it is. So I've already shared a link in the chat box wherein the session links which we have already done for Project Maverick are available. And to be very true, within this session, I told you that I mentioned about 2 candidates who were in class 12, but one went to National Law University, Delhi, and another one is studying at NLS Bangalore, and these are just 2 examples. So how do you really, really balance it? Understand that you have to strategize it to the core of it. How much time you want to devote? Again, a strategy will be completely different for each individual application, whether somebody has taken science, PCM plus computers, or commerce or humanity. Yes. So the strategy is completely different. If somebody has taken PCM plus computers, I know about their life, been there, done that. At a single given day, you are also solving integration, and then for preparing, and then comes down to the common law admission test, you are solving the maths which you used to solve in class 8 for 9th. And at one point of time, you are reading Ren and Martin, and the other time you are preparing for Word Power Made Easy. So it's not really easy to balance both of them, but you have to identify what do you truly desire. Yes, the common law admission takes test. See, I did not want to say this during this session, but I must give you another example because it's really important. In this entire country, there are various kind of entrance examination, my dear friends. Whether it is for IIT JEE, for it is for medical entrance, whether it is for the fashion colleges, but or design schools, you will only find that the crash course thing exists for law entrance. Yes, you would have. I have never heard of a crash course to prepare physics for JEE. I have never heard of. So now you get that idea. With a limited time frame, but with the right direction, you can prepare. So that is what I want to say. Board exams, yes, you prepare it eventually. You will get some time after board exam. But you should only devote that time to revise, to go through those past year paper, sample paper, resolve them again. The time before the board exam, you should ideally finish your entire syllabus, go through it once, revise it once, and then actually go for a board exams. And understand in the longer frame of night, a lot of parents will say something else, but I want to tell you, at a point of time in your life, nobody asks you how much marks did you get in class 12. I just want to tell you this. So in your batch, when you go to a law school, you will figure out there are candidates who have got 48% in class 12. So there will be people who have got 99.99 at this time frame in their class 12, all at the same place.
Thank you, sir. So my last question for the session is from both of you, and I want your opinions on this. Is CLAT the only option and the last option, or is there any other option like after this?
Okay. So because
students are panicking कि CLAT में क्या होगा तो क्या होगा तो क्या है इसका?
No, Pratikesh. I completely understand. Before I give this stage to the one of the GOAT, when I say GOAT, it is greatest of all times, Professor Krishna. I want to answer this beforehand. See, देखो होता क्या है कि वक्त रहता नहीं कहीं टिककर इसकी आदत भी आदमी सी है as it goes by. ठीक है? The time changes. Common law admission test comes and goes. Yes. The law entrance examination will come and go. Yes. So they are important to you, but they are not everything to you. One, why do students fill more than one entrance examination form? Is it because they are not confident to clear it? No, it is because there are two situations. One, somebody wants to have a plan B, or somebody want to test themselves before they go for the big exam like CLAT, which will become really important in their career, for their career rather. There are other entrance examination. Let me name a few. Common law admission test being one, LSAT India being another exam, then AI-led being another exam for NLU Delhi. I know few of the students will be saying, sir, but that's a feeling with most of the kids. Then their entrance examination to BHU, their entrance examination to private law schools, including IFIM Law School, which is situated in the Silicon Valley of India. The entrance examination. So I'm just trying to tell you that they are entrance examination which are conducted by prestigious law schools in this country, and you can give their exams. And secondly, when you asked about the balancing board and the entrance examination, therein I must answer this question. Entrance examinations such as LSAT India, such as ISAT for IFM Law School, you can give them today itself. Tomorrow is LSAT India for the first cycle for that exam. So you can actually settle yourself, get into a law school, and then give your board exams. That option also exists. But if you want to take that option, again, I must be very candid with you. But it's not the end.
Sir, you have muted yourself.
CLAT will happen twice this year. Yes, there is another opportunity. In with the opportunity comes great responsibility. So you must devote your time to prepare for this in examination and want to ace this examination. If you do not do well in CLAT, there are other opportunities. There are other law schools also that I want to tell you. And people from all these schools have done really, really great in their careers. Uh, so it's not the end, but you should actually try to clear in the examination and be in that space. Now, now transferring this to Professor Krishna uh, for his concluding remarks.
Well, that's actually, see, CLAT most probably is going to be the last test which is going to be given by students. That's how it is. I was also someone who batted for an online test because I thought putting students' life into great danger and making them appear, sitting in a center where some students might not be even well. There were so many issues which happened, but then somehow there is this orthodox mentality which goes on, and they never go ahead and think about doing something like a remote proctoring test. Uh, if you ask me about examinations, every examination which you give should not be the end or should not be where everything ends. If you dream to or aspire to be a law student, it is not just one test. That's why any university where I used to work with, if there was a student who would come and say, okay, my score in CLAT is very low, I would say, okay, let me meet you once. So I used to sit with two other professors, meet him minimum for 30 minutes, understand him, make him write at least a para, give him a topic and say, write something. I even used to tell him that you can use your mobile phone also, research. You know why? Because that's what lawyers do at the end of the day. We lawyers, and that's why in most of the law schools like ours in IFI, we have open book tests now, as in we allow students to open up the book and write. But yes, we have done it where we would see that are you plagiarizing the entire thing or are you applying your mind? Because that's what a lawyer does. A case comes to you, you have to go to the library, pick up 10 books, research on multiple options, and then come out with an answer. So this entrance examination and the entire thing is not something which, as in, it helped me make my career. But then I think even now we're not applying our brain and understanding what should be passed on to the student as a test, which gives him a clear picture of what is happening. And that's where I appreciate LSAT as an examination, because it at least tells a student about what is going to be the next step, as in once you get into law school. Now, if you ask me, should CLAT be the only test which they should give? No. I would rather go ahead and say, give as many tests as you can. Yes, it's going to be a bit heavy on your pocket, but though it will prepare you. There are students who get butterflies in the stomach the moment they enter the gates of an examination center. Get over these butterflies, go and appear in multiple tests and have a look at how you perform. At least you will have an idea. I know there are multiple students who appear for symbiosis, which happens before CLAT, just because they want to get over this trauma. They just want to go perform. They don't want to be selected in symbiosis, but then they want to get away with this kind of a trauma, that how am I performing, etc., etc., and then they appear for it. So these are the psychological things which I'm saying. And if you want to ask me, should I give another examination strategy wise? Yes, because anything can go wrong in this few hours. Like I said, it can be anything. You're not well, you're feeling pukish. There is this irritating invigilator who is in your room, who's talking, who's not making any sense. And then even if you request him to be silent, because probably you did not prepare taking into consideration all these things. So while you asked me about preparation also, I used to tell students, that's where I think that during when I used to prepare students, I went to such extents that when they were giving their mocks, we would create that kind of a scenario where we'll install speakers and we'll make noise through that speaker so that the student can concentrate and work, so that if worst case scenario happens inside the examination hall, I'll switch off the fans. In April, I used to make them sit and give the examination without fans, because at some centers there are no fans. There is no AC. There is nothing. The student has to literally sweat it out. So that's the kind of adversity which CLAT may want you to face. So why not give another examination and try to go to a law school which is equally better? And believe me, there are private law schools which are doing exceptionally good today. And how do I judge them? It's very simple. I go and judge many moods. Our friend here, Harsh is going to judge Stetson soon. So we judge a lot of mood codes, and where we have seen the kind of students private law schools are now coming out with. And these are those students whom I think by not giving a seat, national law schools have done great injustice, because that student, because wherever I go and take guest lectures, even at IFIM, I've met some exceptionally talented students. And I think that, see, this is what is happening. Private law schools are benefiting out of every year CLAT doing something stupid, and these good students are going to private law schools and they're doing good. Because at private law schools, one of the great advantages is they do not have a budget issue. They do not have issues of recruiting faculties by seeing net qualification, this qualification, that qualification, nothing. They recruit, and at private law schools, a faculty better teach better, because the kind of feedbacks they take from even our feedbacks, at IFM also they take great feedbacks, and we have to perform well in front of the students. We have to be really good. We have to be updated. We have to teach them the best of the best things that is happening. So while I was talking to you, I was side by side also preparing a lecture of mine. Can I share my screen, Pratikesh? Do we have time right now? I wanted the students to see something and think that where legal education is headed. Can I share my screen, Pratikesh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay. Most of you might have seen this, but this is something which is really interesting. Yeah, you all might have heard about. Is my screen visible? Is my screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now look at this.
Perfect. Oh, hey, Mark. Hey, what's going on?
Hi. What's up, Mark?
Whoa, we're floating in space? Who made this place? It's awesome.
Right? It's from the crater I met in LA.
This place is amazing. Boss, is that you? Of course it's me. You know I had to be the robot, man. I thought I was supposed to be the robot. Whoa.
I knew you were bluffing.
Now, guys, why did I showed you this? I showed you this because this is the next challenge of legal education and also the legal industry, because we have created another dimension where humans are interacting. And as well as I am aware, as in I hope all of you are aware about it, that Nike has already taken copyrights and business rights over downloadable goods in metaverse. That means if you are in metaverse, what you saw is metaverse. It's a totally new world which Mr. Zuckerberg has created, and more people are now going to follow. Just like Facebook, that was Zuckerberg. There could be one of you whom I'm talking to in that sphere. That robot guy is the main creator of it, and he chose his avatar. You can buy property there. You can buy Nike shoes there. You can buy Adidas shoes there. You can buy a home. And you can give a party where there will be many people who come. You can only enter into that party if you pay the person who owns the property. So this is what is happening. Do you hear contracts? Yeah. And what if inside the party, if someone kills another part? That is also something which can happen. What if someone commits a theft of another one's avatar or another one's identity? You smell law here? That's exactly what we are preparing students for. That's the next big thing. That's how law will never die, or legal industry is never going to die, because with each of these things happening, there is always a scare that how is humanity going to react to it? What are the legal intricacies of it? Like I always say, when cloning happened, and when they said that Jurassic Park is now a dream, that we can create dinosaurs now, science was very happy. But it were the humanities and the law students who said, hello, stop it. Don't do it. You are in trouble. That's where our mind travels. That's where you have to tread. That's exactly where you have to. So CLAT examination, any law school you give into, be very clear. You have to be in touch with the times. You're not going to be just a civil lawyer or a criminal lawyer. You're going to be an AI lawyer. You're going to be a metaverse lawyer. That's the next big thing which is happening. And that's what you should prepare yourself for. These entrance examination, crack it like this, apply your mind, how you have to do it, work on your strengths and weaknesses, and just crack it. And just, we both, in fact, we three of us are going to be there to welcome you to the legal fraternity. Great.
And of course, I'm really sorry, but I will take another 1 minute. The aim and aspiration with which Project Maverick was started is excitement, aspiration, commitment, and a dream to make a difference. And with all of you who are associated with this Project Maverick and right now in this class also, I want to tell you, I have always believed and share this idea of creating unprecedented access to legal education. The same idea or the same vision has been is shared by the Dean of IFM Law School, Professor Padmanabha Ramanujam, and we have introduced merit cum means basis scholarship. So that is what I want to share with you, that there are law colleges wherein you can, if you do not have that financial abilities for that matter, and then also you can look forward to having the legal education, and your aspirations can be met. So with this, Pritikesh, I give it to you.
Yeah. So now we come to the end of this wonderful session. Thank you, Deepu sir and Harshvardhan sir, for this insightful session with our students. We did not make it to the, like, we cannot take the questions from them directly yet, but I already took their question and put before you. And this session was not just about how to prepare, but everything about the legal fraternity, like where they are going to enter. So they should be knowing about it. Like, all the mentors are telling them कि CLAT ऐसे निकालना है, ये करना है, GK में ये पढ़ना है, legal reasoning में ये पढ़ना है, बस वही है. But Deepu sir and Harsh sir, you told them कि क्या है real legal field में क्या है. अभी छोटा सा ही इनको ये मिल पाया, ये idea. This was a very short, but they have a rough idea where they are going to enter. So this will make them to make a wise decision कि CLAT देना है तो क्यों देना है and क्यों law field में आना है. So that was a very insightful session.
Thank you so much, Pratikesh. I want to take this moment to thank you, Lawseco, Project Maverick, Ramanuj, and all of you doing that exceptional work that you guys are doing, like bringing in so many students and also enlightening them, and also being a harbinger between both of us, all of us. To all the students, see, whatever I've said, I hope I've encouraged you and not discouraged each one of you. Please go ahead, give your best shot. Have any doubt, and Harsh are always going to be there. Though we have left what is called as the CLAT preparation module, we have now into university teaching. But this is something which we are at heart. We cannot escape from what is our past, and whatever we have achieved in our life, believe me, it's because of you students and the students I've taught. One of whom has I've been told that just getting nominated as advocate general somewhere. That's how that's the kind of students I have now. But that's what I have earned from this, and I want to be in touch. Whatever kind of a help you guys want, Harsh can share our email ID also. You can reach out to us. We'll be always there. And Project Maverick, as what Project Maverick gave me Harsh, if you ask me. He's one of he's like a brother to me. And the way this guy has revolutionized what I left post me leaving the CLAT prep module has been exceptional. And that is what I see Project Maverick as. Now I've met someone, Pratikesh also, who's chairing it. So, that's one of the best things which can ever happen to, students preparing. During my time, there is nothing as such. We used to sit with a digest called as Universal Book of, law preparation and just study from there. That's it. And then lawinterest.com happened. So things like that happen. So I'm very thankful to Lawseco, in fact, for taking this initiative and also making sure that such kind of sessions happen. And thank you, Pratikesh, and thank you, Lawseco, once again.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you for the kind words. Sir, anything from you?
Just those lines, सफर में धूप तो होगी, चल सको तो चलो, सभी हैं भीड़ में निकल सको तो चलो. That's it.
Thank you, sir. We are ending this session now. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining.